Oh, well, I've to be honest, I found this season relatively inexplicable in its storytelling. Um, I liked the last episode, and to me, they should have just started the season with that episode. Other than all of this going back and forth, I haven't really. I mean, I really am perplexed why they're not on Mandalore rebuilding the planet right now. To be honest, why weren't they already there? And why were the Mandalorians training by the side of the water when a giant reptilian creature could just pop out at any moment and eat them?
We said all this before.
Yeah,
it's not the crocodile, it's the suddenly pterodactyl. It steals all of their children, which does it multiple times, and they still don't think to move away from the planet.
No,
and the reason, to answer your question, the reason they're not on Mandalore already is that the script demanded that they not go there yet, and that is literally the only reason why.
Yeah, I look, bad writing is bad writing, and I don't mean to criticize. I mean, I do mean to criticize. I criticize it all the time, but I think that this season of Mandalorian has been terribly written, and I don't get any of it, and I don't understand why with all the great TV that we get, whether you're watching House of the Dragon or whether you're watching Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I mean, take whatever your favorite show is. That should be the baseline of what all writing is on TV, and especially on a science fiction, fantasy, or horror show, where we have such great examples of good writing compared to bad writing. Why does Star Wars should be like Star Trek should be the Tiffany standard of writing for science fiction?
It's because of KK. That's why.
Yeah, we've said something's going on. There's been a massive drop off with the writing this season.
Yeah, and
it's got to be stuff going on in the background that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't share. I have a different. I think a lot. I think about Kathleen Kennedy in a different way than a lot of other people do, in the sense that Kathleen Kennedy is a great producer. In the sense that what her job has always been is she's worked with visionaries who she is there to facilitate their vision. So, like, when she worked with Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg, these are great visionaries, and they tell her, here's the movie I want to make, and she makes sure that they have everything they need to make whatever it is they're making. That's what a great producer does. I think one of the problems that she's had as the president of Lucasfilm is she expected all of these visionary people, because this is what she's used to doing, like when she was hiring people like Josh Trank to do the Boba Fett film, or she hired Lord and Miller to do Solo. She was making interesting choices, and then what ended up happening was the people that, because she's not used to getting in front of people and telling them what to make. Her career, since her first producing credit was on E.T. in 1982, her first feature full producer credit, and then she's been a producer and an exec producer ever since. She's worked with filmmakers that really knew what they were doing, and she's not somebody that steps in and tells people what to do. She makes sure that people have what they need to tell the stories they need to tell. And I think that now, first and foremost, Disney bought an IP, and she has to do what Disney wants, first and foremost. And when Disney said, we want to reinvent Star Wars, The Force Awakens, I hate all three of those Star Wars movies, to be honest.
Right.
But The Force Awakens is a movie where they literally tried to reboot Star Wars from the beginning. But that was the mandate from Disney on high. I don't think that was a Kathleen Kennedy choice. Kathleen Kennedy, I don't think is
Did you think it didn't feel like a Star Wars film, though?
I didn't, because the problem with there's nothing in it that felt authentic. Like, for instance, in the original Star Wars, I've often said, Star Wars is about a truck driver and a farm boy that normal guys, workaday guys. Star Wars was about normal people, and then they had their wizard, crazy veteran of foreign wars dude over here in Kenobi. But they were normal dudes who fell into this situation, and they were required to be extraordinary. And that's what made Star Wars so interesting. In The Force Awakens, everybody's extraordinary. I mean, Rey was birthed as the most extraordinary person in the universe. And I mean, everything she's ever done, she does well. Like, how does she step behind the controls of the Millennium Falcon and pilot it through a crashed Star Destroyer better than we've ever seen anybody pilot any ship ever in the Star Wars universe? That you watch that, I couldn't watch The Force Awakens and not hate it, because it missed the point of what Star Wars was, and which is about all of us are Luke Skywalker. All of us have the potential to be extraordinary. The Force surrounds us and binds all of us. You don't need midichlorians. You don't need, and anybody can step up if called upon and save the universe.
So what you're saying is that KK isn't responsible for the making Star Wars woman-led. Who's responsible for that?
No, I think everybody now, especially in Hollywood, is following what they perceive to be what they're supposed to do. That's why you're seeing all of these. Now we have to have all of these female-centric characters, and I don't necessarily think it's because that's fashion now. It's like, let's have strong female characters. You know, that's and let's give all of this representation now. Everyone's trying to do good by having this representation. I don't think, like, you know, that picture of her that says the Force is female. That's actually a shirt from Nike. That's a Nike, the shoe company. That was not a Star Wars shirt. That was a Nike shirt that they used, that they wore, but they didn't make a Force is female shirt. It was a Nike shirt that they're wearing.
Well, if they did, they'd have Dylan Maloney, whatever the Mulvaney wearing.
Well, they would, yes.
That's another thing. I mean that person, I think she's running the long con. She's playing a part. Before she transitioned, she's always been playing a part. And what's really interesting is no one wants to come out and say it, but I think one of the problems we have, especially here in America, is the hard-fought rights of women are being systematically dismantled. And the question is, we have to ask ourselves, why? And someone like Dylan Mulvaney is, I mean, she is playing a caricature. I mean, she's almost wearing woman face, literally, and is playing the worst kind of stereotype female.
Some of the big channels have been saying, some of the commentary channels have been saying that she is effectively playing blackface.
No, she actually is, and it's really horrifying. And we have a huge problem in this country. I was just watching an article or a video about how a lot of this ideology that has been, it's really only erupted over the last 10 years. And in everybody's desire to be inclusive and helpful, I respect that. I think there are a lot of marginalized voices that need to be heard. On my own channel, I always say that every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. All you have to do is listen. But now people are they're allowing marginalized voices to speak and to tell the stories that we should hear. But now they're doing that in order to get rid of other voices. Other people.
So, hold on. So if Kathleen Kennedy's in charge of Star Wars, why didn't she balance the whole story out where males and females will have certain roles, good roles, and therefore pushing Star Wars forward? Why did she just opt to make every male stupid in the script? I mean, she's the producer. She sees the script. She must see that the script is one way, and then the second one was even worse when it came to males.
But I think
the third one. So I don't subscribe to what you're saying. I think KK is responsible. She is the producer. She oversees the scripts. So she must be responsible for what's happening in Star Wars.
But you have to understand, though, that if you're J.J. Abrams and you get hired by Disney and Kathleen Kennedy is not telling J.J. Abrams what to write. She just isn't. That's not how Hollywood works. She can consult, sure. But in terms of J.J. Abrams, he's like, no, this is my script. And I think and this is something that is not, I don't think it's frustrating to talk to. There's a lot of punditry shows, and I've talked to a lot of people. She is running Lucasfilm, but when a director is hired to write a screenplay, Kathleen Kennedy will defer to that director.
So when one of the innumerable numbers of directors who've been hired and then let go for quote unquote creative differences with Lucasfilm, with whom are they having a creative difference?
With her. Oh, for sure.
So she does have a say.
She does have a say.
Okay. I was getting confused there for a second.
No, she has a say, absolutely. But remember, it's Disney that is saying what they should and shouldn't make. And, it's Disney, the overarching ideas that Lucasfilm is a subsidiary of Walt Disney Studios. So, and what's happening now is they are the things they're making. The MCU isn't working. Star Wars isn't working because they're so muddled over at Disney with what their messaging is, and their messaging is, tell me a good story, give me great characters. Now everyone's running around trying to appease this, whatever if it's ideology or whatever, and they are losing the plot. And the plot is, tell me a good story with great characters. Now they're trying to service what they see is going on in the real world. And they're trying to make all things for all people. No one can do that.
But pleasing nobody.
You're pleasing nobody. The core mission statement of any story is you have to tell a story that is true to itself, that has great characters and a great story to tell.
It's a lost art form.
No, I absolutely think that's true.
Here you go, folks. Neil says it all goes back to Bob Iger.
I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah. I don't know whether I subscribe to that, but I know how it works. Well, I know how majority it works in Hollywood, and she's responsible. She's responsible for those scripts. And I have friends. I say I have friends in those kind of establishments that tell me things and stuff. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I tend to believe it because I know the people who are telling me that stuff. So I don't know whether to believe what you're saying. I kind of suspect that you're wrong, but then again, it's just my opinion. You might be right. Who knows?
Well, I mean,
could you both be right?
Yeah, I think that there's because Kathleen Kennedy. I'm not saying. I want to be clear. I'm not saying she has no say. But I am saying that when a director or writers are hired to make something, the director is usually the highest ranking member of the project. And when a movie sets sail, when a movie starts being made, and that's why something like Solo took so long for her to finally put the brakes on, because she thought the movie's being made. Once Lord and Miller can make the movie they wanted to make, and it was Lawrence Kasdan who wrote the script. That was finally like, enough of this tomfoolery. They're improvising. They're going off page.
I was there.
Well, yeah. I mean, then that's what happened.
Probably was an extra on.
I can confirm. I can confirm it was chaos. They spent a week on one single shot whilst they were trying to get their actors to do ad hoc lines and ad-libbing. And it went on and on and on, and nothing really progressed. So she was running around like a headless chicken.
And that's why it happened. Now, what happened in Kathleen Kennedy's defense? If you look at the movie she's produced over the last 40 years, she's worked with some of the best people in the business.
Yeah, but she's not responsible creatively.
Right.
But she is responsible creatively for these films. She has to say in the scripts, like for instance, when she was producing E.T., it was written by
Melissa Mathis
and Spielberg's. Obviously, it was the original idea, so they were in charge. Her job was to produce it, make sure that, as you said, make sure everybody was there. Whatever. She wasn't creatively responsible. She is creatively responsible for the Star Wars movies.
Okay, but why would you? Let me ask you this: why would that change? Why is she creatively responsible? She's the president of Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
But they're still hiring directors and writers, and that Hollywood still works the same way.
The question
is, there's a difference, isn't there, between working as a producer under a director and working as a president over a director?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that is she's the president of the studio, and she's dealing with Disney, but she's still not going to. Like, she decides who's going to make the movie, but she still expects the filmmakers to go make the movie they're going to make. And Solo is a perfect example. The filmmakers, that hiring Lord Miller was an interesting choice because they'd made 21 and 22 Jump Street. They produced, they did this after, they did Spider-Man after, but they were considered hot properties in Hollywood. She gets them. It seems like they're young guys, really good hire. She expects them to go make the movie that they were tasked to make, which was Lawrence Kasdan's script for Solo. Looks like it's a dream made in heaven. Lawrence Kasdan wrote Empire. He wrote Raiders. Why not? And Jedi. Why not hire? All good. She sets that ship sailing. She's like the queen. But Christopher Columbus has left to the New World. And when it turns out that Lord Miller, 70% into the movie, suddenly it becomes like, this is not the movie that you were supposed to make. And she had to pull the plug and replace. I mean, this is not something that goes on normally in Hollywood. And you could say, because she expects the people she hires to make the movies that they're supposed to make.
Yes, but I feel that there's definitely an agenda there. All future Disney Lucasfilm announcements are all about the girl bosses. You've got the Ahsoka series, who's going to be focused on Ahsoka, Hera, and Sabine. You've got the
remember,
movie.
But it's Dave Filoni who, I mean, Dave Filoni is the one guy who produced the Clone Wars, Rebels. You know, he's been successful with his fiefdom within the Star Wars universe. And it was Kathleen Kennedy who said to Jon Favreau, look, you should work with Dave Filoni making the show. And what Dave Filoni has succeeded in doing, Ahsoka's his character. He created her. So now he's being given a live action show where basically the Star Wars universe is now the Filoni-verse, and it's everything else. Problem with everything else is nobody in Hollywood really wants to make a Star Wars movie. Would you? There's nobody. There's no for anybody to go make a Star Wars movie. Any filmmaker, you've got the woman who's going to direct this Rey movie. She's got nothing to lose. She's never going to
happen.
But why would you hire someone like that, though? That's the thing. She hasn't made a feature film.
She's directed 3 episodes of Ms. Marvel. That's surely a qualifying.
Right. So why? Hold on. So as
also,
a producer, as Kathleen Kennedy's the producer, why you'd be stupid to hire someone that has hardly any experience directing a feature film.
She's also an incredibly experienced feminist activist, and she co-chairs.
Yes.
So she's got all the relevant experience.
And that's the thing, because Kathleen Kennedy is the one that's selling this idea to the audience and saying, we are doing this because, you know, X, Y, and Z, and basically just selling the agenda and saying, yes, we're proud to be feminist. And,
rather than XY.
You know what I mean.
Potentially
I totally agree with you. But that's what's happened. The everything is now, Star Trek has fallen to activism, and everybody has good intentions. But what they're doing is they're putting their agendas in front of their characters and their stories. Like I was saying this earlier on a stream today, it's all the good intentions, or the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
It is.
Yeah, and even the actress for The Acolyte, Jodie Turner-Smith, claiming that Star Wars is very patriarchal.
Well, I mean, it's all of that is the world is patriarchal for a reason. And you know, if you ask yourselves, I mean, how long has there been a patriarchy? Thousands of years. Why? Because we're dimorphically sexual. There's a male and female sex. Women can have babies. Men can't. Men have to. Right. Well, that's all part of the deconstruction. That's the whole, which is bad. I mean, I was talking about this, but you want to get away from that. I'm all for strong female characters. We had them.
But they're not strong female characters if they have no development to show that they've fought for that. They've struggled in order to achieve that.
100%. And
with all due respect, Robert, I actually think that Kathleen Kennedy is responsible for all this stuff. There's no way she can't be responsible for the scripts, for the ideas. Exactly. So, I mean, you know.
Well, you have to understand, I agree. I'm not saying she's not at all responsible. But what's happening is that there is a larger societal agenda at play that they're trying to appease. And Disney's trying to appease it as a company as well. And so are other companies. And, you know, the whole thing with Dylan Mulvaney and Anheuser-Busch that we saw play out badly.
Yes.
You know, you have all of these people are trying to score points.
Well, it's a bubble, isn't it? It's a Hollywood bubble. Everyone thinks the same, and they all hold each other to account. They all police one another.
Oh yeah.
If you don't agree with so and so, then you don't get invited to such and such party, and then you don't get invited to do such and such a project, and it's all word of mouth, isn't it? They all talk about each other to each other, and
I'll tell you something that's even worse. If you're producing a show, whether it's a TV show or a movie, you have HR departments, human resources. Nowadays, human resource departments at studios are very sensitive. You have younger people who are calling human resources on a daily basis, complaining that they're in some kind of a hostile workplace. And I'm not kidding.
I'm impressed.
This is a problem. And you have an entire generation of I'll tell you something that happened to me this week. There was a Star Trek website that complained about me to Paramount that literally tried to get me in trouble because my outspoken hatred of modern Star Trek is something that a lot of people don't appreciate. They literally reported me to the studio for doing something that. Oh yeah. Yeah,
crazy.
It's
so vindictive. I mean, the Be Kind crowd are the most vindictive bunch of people I've ever seen in my life.
They're one step away from jackbooted Nazi thugs.
Absolutely,
that will sell out Anne Frank.
Absolutely,
and that's what we're dealing with, especially here in the States. And it's terrifying. You know, I used to think that I was a classical liberal with left leanings. The left scares me more than ever. I mean, because they are a bunch of jackbooted.
Well, they're all authoritarians. They always have been. I mean, there's a big, discussion now about where the Artsies really were on the spectrum. We talk about them being far right and all this. Well, no, because that's an oxymoron. They're actually totalitarian collectivists and all that, really. I mean, if you look at Mr. Hilter, he was elected as a communist in 1919, which not a lot of people know. And the fascists, former Marxists. You could argue there's a third way, but it's very leftist. It's peculiarly leftist.
You can find the balance in a script, though. Jedi balance, of course. You can find the balance in a script, making sure that the males have a good part and the females have a good part, and you can do it. But it seems that Kathleen Kennedy is not interested in that. All she wants to do is put women bosses in movies and denigrate the males. It's
and sell the agenda.
I
agree, Ian.
I think it's not just Kathleen Kennedy; it's the people that also are making these movies.
It's a culture. It's a culture. I mean, it's a culture held together by fear of each other.
Did you read that Jeeves and Wooster? Did you read this today? It was reported 4 hours ago on Deadline. P.G. Woodhouse's Jeeves and Wooster. They're going to change the prose. They're going to edit those books. Jeeves and Wooster Penguin Random House has altered what it termed the unacceptable prose of author P.G. Woodhouse in new editions of his.
Who are these people?
That is just sad.
Who are these people? These arbiters of absolutely everything. These moral, social justice warriors who sit in judgment over thousands of years of literary history.
I mean, human history is an ugly, ugly place, and this idea that somebody is going to change words.
Joe Darkness, 1984, folks.
It's there. We've always been at war with Oceania.
Brave New World.
If Kathleen Kennedy is as good as she says she should fight against this stuff. If what you're saying is true, she should step up, make sure the scripts are balanced between males and females, or whatever you want to call them now. And move forward. That's what she's doing, but she's not.
I agree.
Doing that. That's
I completely agree because everyone is trying to be, everyone's trying to be politically correct. I mean, it is a I will tell you, it is a horrible time to be working in the arts. I never would have thought that I would see this.
I was saying to Ben, I watched Mario Brothers, and they didn't rescue the princess, but that was okay because they saved Brooklyn. Do you know what I mean? So it was balanced. It was quite balanced there, there. So that's what they should try and do instead of going all one way, because that's just insulting the fan base and people get upset like us.
The weirder thing is that
final comment, Rob, and we'll move on.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that genre entertainment has for a long time has always had strong female characters, science fiction, fantasy, and horror. I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street. Heather Langenkamp's character was the hero. The final girl, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. Everyone else is getting killed. She doesn't. Ripley in Alien. Buffy in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's a show that had all kinds of inclusion and representation in it, but it also had strong male leads and also a strong female lead who was still also very feminine. It is only recently that this weird shit has happened. And the question is, why? Why is it happening now? And who is responsible for it? And it's a much bigger problem in our society. And I think it's definitely something that is being pushed on purpose. And the real question is why. And I'll tell you, people are scared.
I know.
People are scared to come out and say things, to say the truth.
An actor that went up for an audition. This is my friend lives in LA. So the first thing they asked him was, what do you think of the LGBT community? That's the first, even before he read a line on the script.
Well, and I'll tell you something. In the arts, the LGBTQ community has always been strong.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked in Hollywood for 34 years, and I've had friends, LGBTQ friends, since I was 13 years old. Some of them are terrified too.
Yeah, I know.
Because the hard-fought rights that they've been fighting for are also at stake.
They've been dismantled. They've been dismantled mainly from within, from the TQ plus.
Yes.
Who are fundamentally homophobic, as far as I consider.
Yep. And I mean, I have a friend. He's been married to his partner. Gay marriage was legal in California. Then it was made illegal. Then it was legalized again. And so I have had friends that I've known most of my life that are terrified by some of the weird things that are going on now.
It's sad. Really sad, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, guys, I think we should move on.